I was a prophet, at least that's what they called me. In reality, I was a liar, a manipulator, and a worshiper of demons dressed in the garments of a man of God. I laid my hands on the sick, but my miracles were bought with blood. I preached about holiness, but my nights were filled with adultery, abortions, and rituals too dark to describe without trembling. And yet my church was full. People loved me. They sowed seeds, paid tithes, and called me Daddy in the Lord. They had no idea that the oil on my head came from the altars of darkness. I thought my secrets were safe until the night the demons I served came to collect my soul. And I was dragged into a place I had preached about but never believed in. A place where the screams never stop. A place where I saw faces. I recognized faces of people I had destroyed in the name of ministry. I went to hell. And this is my story.
This is a story of a man of God. His name is Christopher. But before he continues, I want to welcome you to today's video. I am your host. Let me know your city, your country. And as you do, I want you to open your heart, because I believe God brought you here for a reason. This isn't entertainment. This is a divine warning. Hell is real, and heaven is real. And before this testimony ends, you will have to decide where you want to spend eternity. I see your messages from all over the world, and it humbles me. So please right now, take a moment and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Whether you're in Nigeria, the US, Ghana, South Africa, the UK, or anywhere else, your voice matters. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now so you never miss stories that can save a soul. Now let's listen to the man of God.
Back to where it all began, because my road to hell didn't start in the grave. It started in the pulpit. My name is Christopher from Nigeria. I was born into a poor family in the late 1970s, in a small town where church attendance was a way of life. My father was a nominal Christian, faithful in church attendance, but absent in our home. My mother prayed, but she feared poverty more than she feared God. By the time I was 20, I'd
learned two dangerous lessons. People are desperate for hope. Desperate people will give you anything if you promise them a miracle. I didn't start out intending to serve the devil. I started as a zealous young man in a local church choir, but my hunger for power and recognition was like a disease. I wanted to be seen. I wanted people to stand when I entered the room. And most of all, I wanted to escape the poverty that haunted my childhood. In 1999, I was introduced to a group of men of God in the city. Bishops, prophets, evangelists, who promised to show me the secrets to rapid church growth. They spoke about divine strategies, but what they taught me was not from God. It was from the pits of hell. I was taken to a remote shrine in the forest. They slaughtered a goat. They smeared its blood on my head and hands. They gave me a charm wrapped in red cloth, telling me to bury it under the altar of my church when I started one. That charm would draw crowds. It would make people feel a strange anointing when I prayed. But there was a price. They told me I must renew the covenant every year with blood. At first, I hesitated. I knew it was wrong. But then I saw what it could give me: fame, influence, money, women. My hesitation died quickly. I started my ministry in 2001 with less than 20 members. Within a year, I had hundreds. By 2005, I had thousands. People came from far and near. They called me Papa. They sowed seeds, sold their land, and brought me offerings to tap into my grace. I didn't care about their souls. I cared about their pockets. When a couple came to me for prayers for the fruit of the womb, I would invite the woman for private deliverance sessions. Some I slept with, some got pregnant. Those who did, I forced them to abort, telling them it was the devil's seed meant to block their miracle. I had a circle of young boys who ran errands for me, collecting money, threatening people who questioned me, even helping me with ritual sacrifices. My wife knew everything. She caught me in bed with women, sometimes even with men, but she never left. She couldn't. I had chained her spiritually, binding her to me through diabolic covenants. Yet every Sunday, I stood on the pulpit with a Bible in my hand, sweating under the lights, shouting about holiness and faith. People wept at my sermons. They thought I was a man of God, but my miracles were staged. Sick people were planted in the congregation, pretending to be healed. Those with real problems never got better. They only got poorer. I told myself it didn't matter. After all, everyone was doing it. And if God had a problem with me, wouldn't he have struck me down by now? Hell, to me, was a story we told unbelievers to scare them into church. I thought grace covered everything, no matter how I lived. I was wrong, dead wrong. Because one night, the very demons I served came to claim what belonged to them. It was the night of August 14th, 2016. We had just finished a 3-day miracle crusade. My pockets were full. My altar was full of envelopes. My ego was full too. That night, I was in my office counting the offerings when my chest began to tighten. First, I thought it was just exhaustion. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and lit a cigar. But the pain didn't go away. It grew sharper, stabbing like a knife between my ribs. My vision blurred. The envelopes in my hands fell to the floor. I gasped for air, but it felt like my lungs were being crushed from the inside. I tried to call for help, but no sound came out. Suddenly, I felt something strange. My body became heavy, but I felt light. Too light. I looked down and saw myself, slumped over in the chair. My face was pale. My lips were turning blue. Panic hit me. What is happening? I screamed, but no one heard me. Then I felt it. A cold wind. Not the kind that refreshes, but the kind that steals the breath from your chest. The lights in the room flickered, and from the corner of the office, shadows began to move. They weren't ordinary shadows, they had shape. They were tall, thin, with arms that stretched unnaturally long. Their eyes glowed like burning coals, and their mouths were full of teeth that seemed too sharp to belong to any human or animal. One of them spoke, not with words but directly into my mind. Your time is up. You belong to us. I tried to run, but the floor beneath me vanished. It was as if gravity reversed, and I was being pulled not upward but downward, through darkness so thick it felt alive. The sound hit me first, a roar of voices, screams, wails, shrieks so sharp they pierced my skull. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside me. Then came the smell, rot and sulfur, like burnt hair mixed with decaying flesh. It choked me, making me gag, though I had no body to vomit from. Through the darkness, I saw flashes, flames leaping high like angry serpents. Each time the fire flared, I saw faces. Faces twisted in agony, their mouths open in silent screams. Some I recognized, people who had died under my ministry. Some were women I had abused. Some were young men I had led astray. And then, I saw something worse. A group of them rushed toward me, clawing, grabbing, tearing. Not my flesh, but something deeper. They laughed in voices that were like grinding metal. I tried to call on the name of Jesus, but every time I opened my mouth, something like hot tar filled it. My tongue felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. The shadows dragged me faster. The deeper we went, the hotter it became. My skin, though I was out of my body, felt like it was blistering. The darkness wasn't empty. It was alive, crawling with things that moved and whispered. I saw a massive gate ahead, black, twisted, with spikes dripping what looked like molten metal. Above it, words burned in a language I didn't understand. Yet in my spirit, I knew what it meant. Welcome to your eternal home. My strength left me. I knew this was it. My years of sin had caught up with me. All my fake prophecies, my staged miracles, my lies, my blood covenants. This was their payment. And then, I was thrown into the fire. The moment I landed, it was like every nerve in my being ignited. There are no words strong enough to describe the pain. It wasn't just on my skin. It was inside me, in my thoughts, my bones, my memories. It was as if hell itself was alive and it knew everything I had ever done. The ground beneath me was not solid. It shifted like hot coals covered in jagged glass. Every step shredded me, but standing still was worse. The air was so thick with heat and stench that breathing felt like inhaling boiling oil. I looked around and saw rivers, thick, bubbling rivers, not of water, but of molten metal mixed with something darker. People were in them, thrashing, screaming, their flesh peeling and then regenerating only to burn again. They couldn't die. No one dies here. Death is a luxury hell doesn't give. Then I heard my name. I turned and saw a woman, her face half melted, her eyes glowing with hatred. It was one of the young girls I had delivered in secret meetings years ago, one I forced to abort. You sent me here, she screamed. You told me it was God's will. But it was you. You destroyed me. Her voice wasn't just sound. It was like knives slicing my mind. I tried to back away, but something grabbed my shoulders. I spun around and froze. It was a demon, towering, skin like cracked leather, horns spiraling backward, eyes like liquid fire. Its breath was hot enough to sear, smelling of sulfur and decay. It spoke, its voice like 10 chains scraping on stone. You are ours. You made a covenant. You shed blood for power. And now, you will serve the one you worshipped. I was dragged to a pit, a place where preachers like me were kept. The sight made my spirit tremble. Men in suits, collars, and robes were chained together. Some had no eyes. Others had snakes coiled around their necks, biting without pause. Demons mocked them, repeating their sermons back to them in a twisted, laughing tone. You preached holiness while living in filth. Now you will be preached to forever. One man looked at me. His face was blistered, his lips swollen from heat. I recognized him. He had been a bishop in the same occult circle I belonged to. They lied to us, he whispered, his voice cracking. The power, it was never free. It was never ours. Suddenly, a demon shoved me forward into a smaller pit where fire rose and fell like waves. Inside were people I had sent on assignments for rituals, my own boys. They glared at me with hate and despair. This is your fruit, one said. We are your harvest. And then, the worst part, I heard laughter, not ordinary laughter. This one was ancient, mocking, layered with 1,000 voices. The shadows parted, and something far darker than any demon I had seen emerged. It didn't need to introduce itself. I knew, this was the one I had truly served all along. You thought you were clever, it hissed. You thought you used me, but every seed of sin you sowed was a chain I wrapped around you. Welcome, prophet, to your reward. Its hand reached for me, and where it touched, everything turned to agony so deep, I couldn't even scream anymore. My voice was gone, my will was gone, and all I could think was, if only I had truly known him. And then, through the roaring flames and endless screams, a sound pierced the air, a voice that was not of hell. The laughter of that dark figure still rang in my head when suddenly, everything went still. The screams paused, the fire froze mid-wave. Even the demons around me stopped moving, their heads snapping toward the same direction. Away from me, toward something brighter. First, I thought it was another trick. But then, I saw it. A light, not the flickering, deceptive light of the occult altars I had known. This light was alive. It burned without heat. It radiated without shadow. It was so pure that even hell recoiled from it. The dark figure hissed, its voice shaking the ground. He is mine. He made his choice. Then came the voice, deep, steady, filled with an authority that made every creature in hell tremble. This one is not yours yet. Before I could comprehend, I was lifted, no, snatched, out of the pit like a child pulled from floodwaters. The claws of the demons scraped at me, but they could not hold me. The chains that had bound my spirit melted away in the light's presence. As I rose, the darkness below shrank, but the memories of the souls I had ruined burned in my mind. I felt an ache in my chest. Not just fear, but shame so heavy it crushed me. Lord, I am not worthy, I whispered. The voice answered, not in anger, but in a sorrow I cannot describe. You were called, but you defiled my name. You traded my truth for lies. Yet my mercy reaches even here. Go back and warn them. I tried to speak, but my words were swallowed by tears. How can I warn them when I am the reason so many are lost? Tell them what you have seen. Tell them I am coming soon. And tell them that no title, no position, no miracle can save a soul living in sin. Only my blood can. As those words echoed, I felt myself falling again. But this time, not into darkness. My surroundings blurred, and I was moving through a tunnel of light, faster and faster. I could still hear the distant howls of the demons I had left behind, but they were fading. Then, with a jolt, I gasped, air filling my lungs like it was the first breath I'd ever taken. I was back in my office, slumped over my desk, my shirt soaked in sweat. The envelopes of offering money were still scattered on the floor. I sat there, trembling, my whole body shaking. Not from the chest pain, but from the terror of what I had just escaped. My heart pounded, not because I was alive, but because I knew I had been given one last chance. When I woke up in that office, I knew two things for certain. First, I had truly been to hell. Second, I could never go back to who I was. I stayed on the floor for hours, weeping. Not the kind of weeping I used to fake during anointed altar calls, but deep, broken sobs from the pit of my soul. I asked God for forgiveness over and over, though the memories of the lives I destroyed cut through me like a blade. The next Sunday, I stood before my congregation, but this time I didn't shout. I didn't promise them miracles. I told them the truth. I confessed my sins publicly. Every affair, every staged miracle, every ritual. Gasps filled the room. Some left immediately. Others wept. Many cursed me. The bishops from my old circle threatened me, warned me to stay quiet, but I cut all ties. I destroyed every charm, every occult item, every hidden altar in my church. I shut down the ministry completely. It had been built on lies. I returned all the money I could trace. I sought out the women I had hurt, begging for their forgiveness. Some refused. I understood. Now I live simply. I no longer wear flashy suits or sit in front of cameras to show off power. I spend my days preaching on street corners, in small fellowships, and visiting prisons. I warn anyone who will listen. Titles don't save, fame doesn't save, only Jesus saves. Every night, before I sleep, I remember that voice. Go back and warn them. It is the reason I am still alive. My friend, hell is not a parable. It is not a preacher's scare tactic. I have been there, and I tell you, it is more real than the chair you are sitting on. No title will protect you. No reputation will save you. If sin rules your life, you are already on the path I walked. Jesus is the only escape, and the time to repent is now. What will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Mark 8 verse 36. Don't wait until the demons come for you. Turn back while there's still breath in your body. You've heard my story. You've seen the darkness I walked in and the mercy that pulled me out. Now I want to ask you, do you believe hell is real? Have you ever had a moment where you knew your soul was in danger?
Comments below. I read every one of them, and your words may be what God uses to reach someone else. If this testimony has touched you, share it. Let it be a warning, a wake-up call, and a lifeline. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay ready. Jesus is coming soon.